Yo, we're back, everybody. As you can see behind us, the Suicide Squad. What's going on, Lucas?
What's going on, man?
Quality's looking crazy right now, but I'm good. I'm good. We had the honor of being able to check out James Gunn's new The Suicide Squad early. And this is going to be our non-spoiler review. So we're going to go and kind of just break it down. But I feel like we could just kind of summarize what we kind of felt, our impressions, because I don't think we kind of sent tweets out a little bit. I think our tweets got retweeted by a certain someone. He did not. We are not getting paid for any of this. I'm gonna say that on record. If you guys are kind of like, they got boosted to do this. But
after the way I talked about the Snyderverse, I don't think anybody thinks DC would pay me for it.
They're not. But the Suicide Squad by James Gunn, I kind of coming off of, David Ayer's The Suicide Squad came out 2016. Was it 2017 or 2016? I think.
Wow, was it 2017? I think it was.
So. I think so.
BVS came out in 2016, right?
Yep. And so I kind of was like, I liked certain parts about that. Like that was a guilty pleasure for me. The third act was a thing that kind of threw me off about it, but the beginnings of it and then the impressions that it kind of left me, I was like, okay, this could be something really cool if they just embrace the foolishness that are the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
And my summary about this fully embrace everything about what the Suicide Squad is, what a comic book film can be. And I think that James Gunn hit a home run, bro. Like I'm very surprised how good this really was. But I'll let Lucas summarize really quick before we start breaking things down.
Well, quick summary. This is the most fun comic book movie ever. That's a good way to sum it up. The most fun comic book movie ever. I'm not going to say best. Granted, when we left the screening, I did think for a second that this was Disney's best, and then I remembered a certain movie with an Amazon in it. And then I realized, okay, so it's not the best, but it ain't far off. This embraces every bit of crazy. This is the movie. This movie is the reason why I'm not overly a big fan of James Gunn doing PG-13 movies. Because when he can go rated R and you can get that slither on steroids, because that's what this is.
Yeah,
it's a hell of an enjoyable ride. And then we'll break down why, because I'm not going to tell you why yet. But it's reasons why, and it's a certain actor in here. My goodness. I remember when we saw a clip at DC Fandom, and we got the video on here somewhere when we were talking about DC Fandom, because I think we streamed it for like 8 hours.
We did.
And they showed us clips of the Suicide Squad, and they showed his character in particular, and we was like, that looks stupid.
Yeah.
Man, I must apologize to everyone involved. This is the sickest character I've ever seen in a comic book movie. My goodness. And now I fully understand why he's getting his own show.
Yeah.
No other character in any, and this includes them other people with their shows. No, nothing can live up to this man getting his own show. This was a sick individual in this movie.
Yeah. There and there's plenty of their characters in this that have moments. And somebody on Twitter asked me, like, what'd you think about Weasel? Does he have his epic
Somebody
moment?
asked me that too.
And I quoted to them, and I think that this stands true, and I think Lucas can agree, is that, Weasel does have a moment, but every single character, in some way, shape, or form, has a moment. Like, it might be an emotional moment. It might be one of the most sickest things you've ever seen moment. It might be just a fun, foolish
It's
moment.
not like when David Ayers did what he did at the beginning of his Suicide Squad, where you just saw somebody quick, they blew up, and that was it. Nope.
No.
Even if people in this movie perish fast,
Yeah.
They get a moment.
They
and
do.
That's the key part here.
They do. Everybody gets
my
a moment.
goodness, man. Like some of the moments, Nathan Fillion's character, man, he's hilarious. His scenes are hilarious in this movie. What's the guy's name? The Javelin. I don't know who the heck this guy is.
He was a YouTuber. You know that, right? He started off being a YouTuber and he became an actor, and now he's in the movie.
And his character is way more important than anyone could have ever thought.
Right. Right.
Oh my goodness.
Like, yeah, the way they wrote that, that was genius. That was genius.
It's just a bunch of people getting great moments while still doing it in the confines of a really good plot. Nothing feels out of place. And that was the key part here.
Yeah. Yeah. They fully embraced like every sequence and moment. You know, it could be an interesting action moment. It could be just a stupid comedic moment. Characters that you would never think to care about at all. And I'm gonna put this man out here because he might have been one of my favorite standouts.
Polka-Dot Man.
Polka-Dot Man. Like the way that they play him off, and you've seen the trailers. You like, I think Ratcatcher was like, "Aren't you the crazy one?" He's like, "Yes, I am." And you kind of like, okay, he's gonna be something weird and out there, and he is. But they find a way of making him intriguing and sympathetic, and you find out something about the way he looks at life.
They find an interesting way to humanize him.
Yeah.
And that was the key part there.
Sad and hilarious all at the same exact time. Specifically the origins of him in general, as well as his polka dots. Like it's I'm really impressed. And again, it's rare that, you know, us as critics, most of the time we kind of talk about like, you know, plot or choreography or score, but we've been talking about the characters in a film that's about characters that are
dying,
expendable. Like they're not supposed to matter, right? But James Gunn, this is a full-on James Gunn film. I have to give him all the credit because I did think he could pull it off the way he pulled it off. I didn't.
Well, this is the beauty, and I know people are going to be mad when I say it, but this is the beauty of DC when it's a director who they have faith in. Before you lose faith, because once you lose their faith, they are a completely different company. But when they have faith in you and you have a project, they will almost allow you to do whatever you want with the project. They're not going to interrupt one bit. So whether it be Patty with Wonder Woman, whether it be Pony Smasher with Shazam, whether it be James Wan with Aquaman, like when they have faith in you, they're just going to say, okay, give us a product that you think is good. Hell, even Zach even started out that way before, again, what they feel was trust was lost. So this made perfectly good sense that they would possibly go to James and say, hey, you like to do a Suicide Squad? We would like you to do one. We don't care what you do.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the timing of that, because, you know, James was dealing with a lot of allocations that went against him from a backlog from Twitter. And he lost his contract with Disney. So he was no longer going to be the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 anymore. And I think at that time he was also doing that. I forgot that film was like the Superman-esque film.
I'm not going to blame him for that. He was a producer on that project.
I forgot what that one called.
Zack Snyder's Superman.
No, we are not going there. We are not. Anyway, he didn't have anything underneath his belt except for being a producer on that film.
Yeah.
And so then DC was like, okay, well, would you like to do the Suicide Squad? And you know, I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then later on, Disney was like, you know what, we forgive you, James. It's okay. Come on back and do our Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I kind of was like, okay, what is this going to be about? And I was like, okay, it's just going to be a sequel to the first one. And then people were like, it's not a sequel. But then you had the same actors come back. And then we found out that from James, I think in an interview recently, that the only character that they said that he had to bring back in the Suicide Squad was Harley Quinn. He made a decision to bring back all the other people. And so, I mean, and it adds up because, I mean, Harley's had her own film. And I'm going to say this, and me and Lucas kind of talked about it. But
let's interject one other thing real quick, because it also came out, well, I'm going to say this week because this is the week that we saw it. But it for you all, it happened weeks ago. That it actually came out that James wanted Will Smith back.
Yeah.
But because he was actually shooting King Richard for Warner Brothers, he couldn't come in to shoot the stuff that James wanted him to shoot. Which all I'm going to say is Will Smith is still under contract with Warner Brothers to be that character. I can see him getting added into a sequel for this, which will definitely get a sequel. We'll talk about that why later. But a sequel for this movie, because again, that's someone that James wanted to come back.
Yeah. I had to talk about Harley because I kind of was like, I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Harley Quinn film personally. I thought that it was like, okay, this is gonna be really engaging. They're gonna let this director do a full on. It's rated R, even though it didn't need to be rated R. I just was really underwhelmed, and I haven't looked at it since. Like some of these films, like I'll look at on repeat. This film, I know for a fact I'll watch on repeat. But the way that James directs her as Harley Quinn, not only does she have some of her best action moments, they just let her be fully Harley in the most craziest of ways. Like I was kind of like, this is, I don't know. I just, from a translation standpoint, like looking at the Harley Quinn animated series, I was like, this same character was literally pulled out and put right on the screen. And I just was in love with what they did with this version of Harley.
Now, for a Harley Quinn movie, I got to ask you a real serious question here. Because again, I have not seen, you knew my feelings when we went to the screening for it. I've not seen it since. But I've always thought the issue wasn't Harley. It was everyone else around Harley. Because she was a psychopath in a Harley Quinn movie to a T and had great action beats, but all the rest of the characters around her just didn't feel right. But then that's another sign of Warner Brothers allowing a director to do whatever they want with the character, because they allowed them to do whatever they want with their Harley Quinn movie, which in the end, now that I think about it, it's not a bad movie. It's just underwhelming as a movie. But the character isn't underwhelming, and it feels like a natural progression for Harley Quinn.
So I'll say this. My issue is that as far as just Harley, if I just think about Harley at all, the first half of the film, she is all the way just Harley Quinn and is a full psychopath. The second half, when they start to interject all the other characters around her, she becomes even underwhelming at times, and she loses the crazy side of her in certain aspects because they're trying to humanize certain other characters. And I just, the second half of it just didn't flow for me versus the first half where it's kind of like she came off of her relationship with the Joker. She's dealing with a downward spiral. Like she's just going crazy. And then she's on the run. And I was like, I was all for that.
It's the humanizing part of it that threw you off.
Because that's just not her. I mean, she can be that
without us saying it. Without us saying it, think about the relationship that she has with a certain character in this movie. not the
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Well, I can say it because people would know with Rick, her and Rick in this film. And the way they play that, I automatically thought of the Harley Quinn movie. Because I'm like, that's the interaction you were looking for because you needed someone to play off of her.
Yes.
And whenever you get someone to play off of that character, this is the most interesting female character in all comic book movies.
Yeah.
The way they have progressed her surprised me because we didn't expect this. We didn't expect her to stick out in the first Suicide Squad, which is a movie that most people don't care about. But she stuck out so much in it that now we're at a third movie with this character in it. And we are still highly intrigued about this character.
Very, very. Like, I kind of was like, I don't know. I really want to say so much, but there's an action scene that they do with her, and I was just blown away by it. I loved it. I love that action scene with her.
That action scene, and this is going to be blasphemy for certain DC people.
Uh-oh.
That action scene is up there in choreograph with No Man Land scene in the first Wonder Woman.
I can agree with that. I can
like
completely. I know why you said that. I know exactly what you said.
My goodness, that it is ridiculous. It is. Yeah. It is another level to portray a female character, especially in that light, because you would always expect the male character to get that type of moment, but when you see Harley with that type of moment, and still the insanity that is all around that scene, it's beautiful. It is. It is amazing.
Right, and just for you guys, because you guys hadn't seen the movie, or maybe some of you guys have seen it already at this point. We're not saying other characters don't have moments like this, because there are a lot of other characters that have some freaking moments. Like Idris has some interesting moments. Like
Idris has some touching moments. Man.
I was really surprised how they handled his character, because I was kind of like, I know Idris can act. I knew that he can do the action, but I didn't know how they were going to treat his character, what his character was going to be. And I think even in the trailer, it kind of shows like Amanda Waller pushed him into this. And from that point, you're kind of like, well, what's his trajectory going to be? And I was pleasantly surprised to say that this was dope. Like, because Bloodsport, I will not forget the name anymore.
Because you expect him to be the straight man all the time, because that's the way, at least that's the way it comes across with this wacky group of characters, that his character would be the straight man.
Yeah.
And that is not the case here.
Nope.
That is not the case here. The comic beats that they give him in this movie are great. And it's something that's needed to give him those comic beats in this movie. And it works so well. His interaction with him and John Cena is
gold. It is so much.
Like, that's close to being what the Fast series thought they had with Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah,
is their interaction with one another.
Right.
Like it is sick on another level, and it just shows the acting ability of Idris and of John.
Yeah,
like John is damn near comic gold at this point.
Yeah, and again, in this picture, you see to the right of Idris's character is Ratcatcher 2. Make sure I be really specific.
Yep.
They use her character in a very interesting way. Very endearing. And I was kind of like, should her character even be a part of this group? And then like she does something, and I was like, oh yeah, she definitely. It works. I get it. But there's also some interesting little surprises with her character, and some other things that you guys just don't know. And again, a lot of you guys are kind of wondering who's the villain of this, And even that, I'm not gonna say. You're just gonna have to watch. Like, you're gonna enjoy every single moment of how that progresses. Like it plays to the teeth. No pun intended.
It plays to a Suicide Squad. Well, you kind of don't know what the hell is going on. It's a mission. You have a mission to do something, and that's about as much information as you get. Yep. This is the Amanda Waller that I remember from cartoons, as being as cruel as humanly possible. At the beginning of this movie, all the unnecessariness of David Ayer's Suicide Squad with this character goes away when she does something that you was like, oh, yep, that's Amanda Waller. That's something she would do. And it starts off from the beginning where you fully understand this character and the lengths she is willing to go till she says, save this country.
Yeah. And she also has her own little task team that
are hilarious.
That are just comic gold. Especially the opening sequence. You're off the gate. You'll gravitate towards them very quickly. But I gotta talk about this character because I hadn't talked to Lucas about it. What do you think about Sylvester Stallone, King Shark?
Look here. Look. That is a great character.
It is.
That is a great character. I was questioning how would they play King Shark, because we've seen it either in The Flash, where he's kind of ultra dumb, or in Harley Quinn, where he's extremely touching.
He's touching, yeah.
And this one is kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But he's extremely violent in this. He's definitely a shark in this movie.
Oh my God.
He's extremely violent. But at times he has some of the sweetest scenes because he's kind of an idiot. And they play it perfectly. Especially, it's a giant shark. It's not many things you can do with a giant shark. But just the interaction with the King Shark and the rest of the cast is hilarious. James does an amazing job at the interaction of the non-human characters, whether it be Weasel or King Shark. Like, those interactions work really well.
Yeah. And what's the actor that plays the Thinker? Man, I forget his name. Oh my gosh. But because he was Doctor Who, right? He's one of the Doctor Who's. They use his character even in I was kind of like, well, he's only gonna be in it for a certain amount of time, but no, like they use him in a very strategic way that only James Gunn could have pulled off. Only, like, especially if you've seen Slither,
and it makes even more sense when you know some of these other characters from Suicide Squad lore, the way they use the Thinker and the way another character uses him. You're like, yep, that makes sense. It makes perfectly good sense that this would be what they would do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could keep gushing about this film, but at this point, I feel like you guys already know what's up.
Because we didn't even go into John Cena. Just understand here, I can't wait. Cannot wait for the Peacemaker show, which, for everybody that doesn't know, because that was announced while this movie was still in production, that James had written and is directing the Peacemaker show.
Yep.
Which will be, I guess, on HBO Max next year, 2022. Possibly during DC's enormous slate of everything that they got coming in 2022. So, like, it's a character. I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. So, it's another character from another show that is supposed to be as crazy as the Peacemaker is. And he's supposed to work for the U.S. government, kind of like the Peacemaker does. And when you compare these two characters, one happened to kill a little terrorist with S.H.I.E.L.D. And people thought, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Once you see the Peacemaker and what he does in this movie, you're going to be like, oh God, he's sick. And he's doing this all for America. He's doing this all for America. It is ridiculous what he does in this movie, Joe.
Yeah, like if you any of you guys like The Boys level of violence and just insanity, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Man,
you ain't seen nothing yet. But honestly, like even Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag, this is the best we got out of him.
Yeah,
this is the best we've seen out of him, bruh. Like, I was like,
they do a great job with all
Rick
characters.
Yeah,
that's the key part. They do a great job with all characters here. Even if you only get little moments, even if you're not in the movie overly long, you're still giving your due. So it comes across as having a certain respect for these characters that may be minute to most people, because a lot of people didn't know who these people were.
Yeah.
And it's written and directed by someone who clearly loves all of these characters. So even when they get short scenes, you can still feel it in the way he shoots the characters, how much he cares about these characters.
Right.
And that's the most important part of a movie that has interchangeable people.
Right. Like, you're kind of like, James, have you been in love with DC characters all this time? We just never knew. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I think that's it, man. We can't say much more.
I can't. I'm about to say, yeah, and we're not. I just wait until you all see it, and then maybe we can do a spoiler discussion about it, and I can tell you how much more I love the Peacemaker, and how I kind of agree with a lot of his stances on things. So
why do you always do this with these crazy
people? Look here. He
said the same thing about U.S. Agent the same way.
He made perfectly good sense to me.
We are not
a psychopath.
We are not going down this road. We're not going down this road. All right, Lucas. 1 out of 10. Between 1 to 10, what do you give this?
Probably a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. One of those two. I'm really trying not to give it a 10 out of 10. I think Wonder Woman is the standard for DC, for the DC Universe films. I think Wonder Woman is the standard for it, and that is a 10 out of 10. So probably like a 9.5 out of 10.
Man, I'm going to get in trouble for this. All right, so look. I think this is, I think Wonder Woman is probably a better film. Yes. But as a comic book film, this to me is a better comic book film. I think that when I think about like a comic book film like this, everything that this is even soaked in is almost perfectly to a comic book being splashed on the screen and how to execute it and adapt it on a movie format level. And I don't really have any negatives about the film.
There's not a single one.
And so for me, I'm gonna give it a 10 because I don't have any negatives to give about it. And to me, Wonder Woman, I haven't seen but so much. I'm gonna put this joint on repeat. I'm gonna be looking at when this thing drops. I'm gonna be watching it again and again and again, whether it's for John Cena's lines, whether it's for the things that are happening in the third act, whether it's just the interaction. It's hilarious. And that's one of the things we did talk about. We were laughing throughout the whole entire film from the beginning until the end.
Every critic in the theater was laughing throughout this entire movie. So, I understand what you mean by not being a comic book film. That makes sense. Because Wonder Woman at its core is still a drama.
Yeah.
This is an action comedy. And it does feel more like a comic book film because it dispels belief more than Wonder Woman does. Even though Wonder Woman is a woman who can fly. But this one does it to another level. Well, it has King Shark in it. And he's reading a book. Like, you can't get, like, I loved Weasel's character, man. He's clearly a murderer who's just so sweet, though.
And that's James Gunn's brother playing Weasel, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like it. You know what? You may be right here. It may be a 10 out of 10 because I can't necessarily compare it to Wonder Woman the same way I wouldn't compare movies to The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So at standing on its own, it is a 10 out of 10 because this is I said it, the most entertaining comic book movie I've ever seen, or definitely I've seen since maybe like Guardians. But then Guardians always felt like it was holding back, but it's supposed to because it's for children.
Right.
Do not take your children to see Suicide Squad.
Oh, no. Matter of fact, there's oh my God, there's nudity in this, you guys. There's not just violence, there's not just gore, there's nudity. So please watch this first, and then
wow,
you forgot about that, didn't you? Bro, like when that joint happened, I said, "Oh my God!" And honestly, again, from a comedic standpoint, we had normally there's security that goes with us with the screenings, and normally security guards they kind of like watch and make sure nobody's using their phone and stuff like that. These security guards were falling over laughing. Yeah, like, they came out at the end. He was like, one of the guys was like, "This is the funniest film I've seen all year. Like, I loved it." And I was like, normally the security guards, they just kind of
like, wait a minute, aren't you? So you just weren't doing your job at all.
They enjoy it. So I think, honestly, you guys, even if you feel safe enough, definitely try to check this out in theaters. I would love to see this in the IMAX if I could. This is releasing out August the 6th. It will be a simultaneous release also on HBO Max. But if you can see it in theaters, if you feel safe enough to, definitely go and check it out. I don't got nothing else, man.
This would have been the biggest movie of the summer if it would have released just in theaters.
It could still be.
It could still be, but I mean, I pay for HBO Max, so I ain't got to go to theaters. And it ain't like I got to pay $30 extra to see the movie on HBO Max.
Oh, you know what? We're leaving. You don't disrespect ears, okay?
No. I'm just saying, for a lot of people, that was a selling point for HBO Max.
It was.
So I know some people are just not going to want to go in the theaters. They're going to want to just sit at home in the comfort of their house and watch this movie, and to be able to. It's moments that if I was at home, I would have let me rewind this because I know I didn't just see what just happened there. So I understand people wanting to see it at home, but the theater experience is still great, and it's on a big 4DX. That's what I'm going to go see this at 4DX on the day it drops.
If it is in 4DX, that would
be at the same theater that we screened this movie at.
Oh, shiggity. Oh, shiggity. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna go. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed our review. If you looked at this, the beginning of our summary, go and watch it. If you watch all the way to the end, we appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. We got a lot more content coming. If you guys want us to do a spoiler review, leave it in the comment section below, and we'll be back. Peace, guys.